Welcome to On This Day in Cleveland Sports History, January 29th, 1980. I'm actually shooting this episode from my bedroom. Well, my bedroom on January 29th, 1980 anyway. Didn't have a ceiling fan back then, but it was cold. It's cold today. It's January after all. I don't know that I had a sweater on, but I do remember what I was doing. I was listening to the Cavaliers play the Lakers, and I listened for a very long time. It was on the radio. Cavaliers and Lakers were tied 114 after regulation. They were tied 124 after one overtime period, 136 after two overtime periods, 144 after three overtime periods. Joe Tate was going hoarse. Joe Tate was going nuts. I was going nuts. Wasn't going hoarse because I didn't want to yell with my parents right down the hall, and I was up late. Finally, in the fourth overtime period with 2 seconds left, former Cavalier Jim Chones, still love you, Jim, fouled out. With 2 seconds left, he fouled Mike Mitchell, putting Mitchell on the line for two shots. The Cavaliers were down by one, so as long as Mitchell didn't go 1 for 2, we were golden. He didn't. He hit both, and the Cavaliers won the game 154-153. That is the most points scored by the Cleveland Cavaliers in any game. Although I hope someday they break it, and I hope it's against Golden State, and I hope they do it in regulation. The 153 points was the most the Cavaliers ever gave up, and yet it was in a victory. So I asked myself, was there any other team that had their worst defensive night, gave up a ton of points, and still won? And the first thing I did was, well, let's look at the record for the Denver Nuggets, because if you remember the late 70s, early 80s, the Nuggets didn't play defense. They just tried to outscore you. And in fact, the Detroit Pistons gave up 184 points to the Denver Nuggets in a 3 overtime game. And they still beat them, 186-184. That remains the highest scoring game of all time. Kill it after 184. But we're not here to talk about Detroit or Denver. We're here to talk about the Cavaliers. And on this night, the Cavaliers won. Over 300 points were scored, and the Cavaliers had just a little bit more than half of them. And that's the way it was. On this day in Cleveland sports history, January 29th.